Am I seriously about to dedicate a whole bunch of time and energy to writing and recording a full-on script for a single tiny Turbo Changers figure? Bet your sweet Bippy I am. And you bet your sweet Bippy I just said you bet your sweet Bippy on purpose. I've looked at tiny Turbo Changers on this channel before, specifically Dark of the Moon Soundwave and Revenge of the Fallen Star Scream. I like them a lot, too. Tiny Turbo Changers in general are something I wish I could get a hold of more easily, but most of the various series are well past the point you can find them on store shelves, at least in our area. Plus, our local store shelves are absolute garbage when it comes to Transformers in any capacity. That capacity is usually zero, but still, it sucks. So I'm forced to choose between spending $5 to $12 on eBay for single figures or buy a boxed assortment for over $100. Don't bother guessing which approach I prefer because it's kind of obvious. I paid $12 plus shipping for this Grimlock. This 2-inch tall Grimlock with a total of 6 parts, 4 points of articulation in either mode, technically, and a grand total of 5, maybe 6 paint apps. And you know what? I'm honestly glad I did. No, seriously, I adore this Grimlock. Even with the knowledge that I have however many words I could stand to write to convey to you all how much I'm in love with this thing, I'm not convinced I can truly get my point across. I'm just going to say it. He's perfect. Perfect for what he is, and perfect for what I wanted. The Dino mode is fantastic, clearly, and captures the blockier Cyberverse Grimlock look extremely well. He's got the ridged tail, the shoulder circles, the shoulder, or I guess hip, missile pod things, I think. The tiny arms, the boxy head, some very distinct cheeks, face cheeks. Except he looks even better now because he's been run through the tiny turbo changer filter, so his head is proportionally way bigger and gives the whole thing even more of a chibi-fied look. There's just something about the Cyberverse aesthetic that really shines when it's given more esky-styled proportions. I can't quite explain it, but the two designs go together like peanut butter and chocolate, or whatever other analogy about two complementary things you can think of. Baby metal and electric callboy, maybe? And articulation in Dino mode is shockingly existent. I mean, I expected to be able to move his legs because they're just robot arms from a different viewing angle, but you can also wiggle the tail up and down if you want because of the transformation. And the head can actually tilt up and down. Yeah, it can't turn, but that's more beast mode articulation than a lot of figures with animal modes we've gotten recently. And some older ones too. I also have to go off on a small tangent about the plastic real quick. I feel like I must have mentioned this before when I was talking about Soundwave, and Starscream, but Tiny Turbo Changer plastic is dense. Like pencil eraser that was left in the sun for a month, solidity dense. Stepping on this would feel like stepping on a Lego dense. It's really solid is what I'm getting at. In the interest of fairness, I also did get Cyberverse Slipstream with Grimlock here. Like at the same time in the same order. And she's really cool. I like the two-tone color scheme they went with. The light blue works super well with the dark purple. The back of the jet is very compromised, like very. But given how bonkers her transformation is for for a tiny turbo changer, I get why they probably wouldn't have been able to make the legs fall together. Incidentally, going off script here, but incidentally, I did also recently after writing this script, I ended up also getting Tiny Turbo Changers Cyberverse Megatron, Dead End, and Soundwave. So, yeah, we've got 3 more Tiny Turbo Changers, but this is still primarily about Grimlock. Megatron is just a cinder block with a cannon on top. There are treads molded, but like this is not great. And it also is a bit I think things were a little bit squished and warped in the package, but whatever. Dead End is fine. He's a red car. I like that they painted the windows. That's all they painted in the car mode, but it gets the job done. And Soundwave is Soundwave's weird kind of armored SUV thing with paint on the windows, and that's it. But molding's nice and it's the right colors. But anyway, yeah, I have 4 other Tiny Turbo Changers we're talking about, but again, primarily about Grimlock. Size-wise, well, these are tiny turbo changers. A third of the name is dedicated to explaining that these things are small. Bigger than something like a Titan Master, but definitely smaller than Core Class. Grimlock also looks like someone's pet in most of these shots. It's kind of equal parts hilarious and adorable. Okay, before we start transforming everybody, I do have a coffee and a Patreon. Links to both at the end of this video, as well as down in the description if you want to support the channel. Otherwise, typical YouTube stuff of like, comment, share, subscribe totally works. Now, for transformation, you may have noticed there was this little guy in one of the comparison shots. This is something I kind of wanted to talk about for a bit too, but didn't really have the opportunity because I'm not going to make a video about this thing individually. But this is a Kabea model Micromaster, I think. Don't know the name of this. Basically, the person that I bought the black animated Optimus Prime off of sent this in the package as like a little bonus, which is cute. And I kind of didn't want to deal with this thing because of the subject matter, what it is, but the transformation is actually really cool. So we're just going to look at this guy real quick. The vehicle mode is basically a brick, and the stickers add all the detailing. But for what it is, like for a Kabea model thing, this is actually pretty cool. And transformation is also really interesting, actually. You flip these little legs out, and these will split. Just unpeg. You slide the sides of the car out to become arms, and then you take the hood, and the hood actually accordions up to get out of the way, and then you take the legs, and the entire leg assembly folds all the way around in order to get into position, which I just think is really interesting. And like this guy, I don't know, I don't like the fact that it's a cop car, but I do think it's really cool how this turns into a robot, and I like that he's got a little pot belly that's just like the hood, kind of crumpled up. I just think that's neat. And the robot is very basic. It just has little doodly arms, and like you can kind of bring the legs out a bit. And I don't know, it's a neat little guy that I wish wasn't a cop car, but this is actually fun. I feel like I've been playing with this more than the than the Nemesis adjacent figure that I actually bought on purpose and got this with. Anyway, moving on to everyone else. We'll save Grimlock for last because he's the main focus of this video. But as I mentioned before, Slipstream's transformation is very complex for a tiny turbo changer. What you do is you untab the top of the jet from the back of the head, then this entire wing and arm assembly, you want to bring the arms out a bit, this entire assembly rotates. I find it's best to rotate about 90 degrees. Then this all spins around 180 degrees, shifts back because this is on like a ball joint and hinge combo, and then this rotates up, and you want to get these pegs past this thing here. And once that happens, you want to make sure that's pushed back, bring this down, and then these pegs will peg into the back of the robot here. And there you have Slipstream, which is just Cyberverse Starscream in purple and blue. But like, that's a surprisingly complex transformation for a tiny turbo changer. I think it's really cool. So that's Slipstream. Soundwaves is also pretty complex, or at least difficult in the sense that he's rather cramped. First, you can tilt the back of the vehicle up if you wanted to. You could use it as like a little sound cannon thing, and then rotate it 180 degrees. And oh look, it's Soundwave's head. He's doing the thing that we sometimes do to make fun of Transformers, the whole robots in disguise. Yeah, I don't know. This is funny to me. Anyway, you want to bring the front down, and there are these little tabs here that kind of tab in there, so you want to pull that out a little bit to bring this down. Then rotate this 180 degrees, and that gives you the rest of the entire lower body. And then for the arms, they just kind of awkwardly hinge down a little bit, and like the arms are attached kind of low and further back on the torso, and it's difficult to actually straighten them out, and it's difficult to move them, and it's just as a toy, this is probably the weakest one, but he looks really cool in robot mode, so we'll give him that. Dead End is also a little bit awkward, but not as awkward as Soundwave. For him, you want to fold the hood up, and oh look, it's Dead End. Rotate that whole thing around 180 degrees, and then there are these little tabs kind of tucked in the back there. You just untab the arms from back there, and then rotate them down, and that will give you Dead End. And he has a little gun in his hand already, and yeah, that's cute. Dead End is just a slight remold and recolor of Cyberverse Wheeljack, but I like that they gave him a different head. It's not Wheeljack's head, at least. Unlike, say, what they did with Bumblebee movie Shatter, where it's just Barricade in red and black. I really wanted to get Shatter, and then I realized Shatter is just Barricade in red, and that's disappointing. Anyway, Megatron's is cool. He's a fun little fiddle toy. So even though he turns into a brick that looks kind of bad, what you do is you take these sides here, you fold these down, and they become the legs. Fold Fusion Cannon out, and then rotate that out, and there you've got one arm done. And then for the last, or the other arm, what I find works best is to kind of rotate the arm a little bit like this, to get that mace out of the way, then bring it out, and then rather than rotate it this way, because the mace will knock into the legs and it's a little awkward, I just bring it around like this. And there we have Cyberverse Megatron. And finally, Grimlock. Grimlock's is also great. Like, again, this Dino Mode, how great is this Dino Mode? But to transform him, you just fold the tail all the way up, straighten out the head, split the head, and just, that's kind of it. You bring the arms down, or legs, which are now arms. Like the head becomes the legs, and I don't know. It's a very simple transformation, but very effective, and that's it. There is our Cyberverse menagerie, helmed by Grimlock, and these are really, really cool. Now, this video is about Grimlock specifically, but I have to reiterate just how wild Slipstream's transformation is, especially for a figure like this. Sure, you don't get much outside of the back and forth between Robot and Jet. The arms do move, but it's mostly just out to the sides because of the way they're attached. They can't really go forward. But that's a lot for a tiny Turbo Changer transformation. I really do think that's cool. It kind of reminds me of the deluxe Starscream figure from Cyberverse in that it doesn't do what you expect it to do. And what it does do is so out of pocket, it kind of sticks in your brain, like a core memory from Inside Out or something. Soundwave's transformation, as I said, kind of overwrought and a little bit cramped. It's, again, the weakest out of all of them, but the results are pretty cool. Dead End is also a little bit, like the arms in particular, I don't enjoy rotating the arms around, but it's fine. Megatron's transformation is fun, though. I absolutely, like, he is a close second in my mind to Grimlock, but yeah, Megatron, very fun transformation. But by contrast with, say, Slipstream, Soundwave, and Dead End, Grimlock's transformation is super simple, but feels very cleverly designed. It deviates a lot from the classic Grimlock transformation, but it still hits one of his most standout design elements, which is the dino legs becoming the arms. You can do it in like 2 or 3 seconds, and what you're left with is, well, this. This robot mode is practically as perfect for what it is as the Dino mode. Yes, this is the battle mask design that was used on the Ultra Class toy, and it's not accurate to how he really looked in the show. I think Grimlock maybe used the battle mask like once in Cyberverse, and there was a scene with I don't think it was Grimlock being fought in a Dinobot like Grimlock being fought in like a gladiatorial arena or something like that, and he had like this face mask on, but like I don't think that was Grimlock. But it does still work really well. The look kind of marries the Cyberverse vibe with G1 in a way that feels more like a loving homage than something that's mired in the past. Thank goodness. because I'm tired of the G1 mire. Anyway, as a little bipedal guy, this Grimlock is great. Almost all the paint apps were given to this mode, and I think that was definitely the right call. The Dino mode looks great in all gray with the eyes picked out in blue, but the robot mode would have absolutely suffered if it was the other way around. Like if this was just gray with the blue eyes, it just would not have worked as well. Here, though, there's just a little bit of red near the waist to get the point across, blue for the eyes again, and a glorious beacon of yellow for the chest. It all mixes with the gray really well. The application is thick enough to mask the plastic beneath it without softening any of the sculpted details. I swear this figure should be studied as a prime example of accomplishing a ton with very little. This is dress for the job you want as a super simple toy. Even the proportions are spot on considering he's a tiny turbo changer. The head is bigger than it proportionally should be, but that's intentional and part of the style, just like with the Dino mode. And I also love how his upper body and arms make his legs look just a little bit too small, which really sells that kind of SD feeling. Now, Grimlock will not be doing the Iron Man landing or much else, really, but it still impresses me just how much articulation he has, because, again, tiny turbo changer. The head doesn't move. You can give him a dunce cap if you want, but the shoulders are on itty-bitty ball joints, so they can spin 360, go out a tiny bit, and even butterfly forward and back very slightly. So it's not bad for a tiny turbo changer. The legs are a similar story and on similarly diminutive ball joints, but they're also impressively stable considering he's standing on just two halves of his Dino mode snoot. There is some forward and backward motion, some actually more in and out than the arms, and an approximation of a swivel, kinda. It's super basic to be sure, but it's more than I would normally expect from a figure like this, and he is objectively the most posable tiny turbo changer I own. For the rest of them, as I said, Slipstream is just the ball jointed shoulders, but the ball joint is going this way. It's not connected to the torso, so it's pretty much just out and something kind of approximating rotation, and like that's as far forward as the arms can go. But again, tiny turbo changer, so it doesn't really bother me. And yes, this is just Cyberverse Starscream repainted in purple or redone in purple and blue, but like the purple and blue is great, and Slipstream is a Seeker, which is basically just Starscream in different colors, so that's fine. Soundwave, he is one of the only tiny turbo changers I'm aware of that actually has head articulation. Because of the transformation, the head's on a ball joint, so it actually can look up and down, it can tilt slightly, and it can rotate, though the ball joint's towards the back of the neck, so it can look a little awkward, but like you can get some posing out of the head, which is cool. The arms can pretty much just rotate forward and back, but like if you rotate them forward because of how they're jointed for the transformation, they just kind of disappear into the body, so you really can't do anything with the arms. And the lower body, it technically moves and can give him a waist swivel, but because of all the junk going on down here, you really can't move it with the arms in the spot that they're supposed to be. So if you like move the arms out of the way, you can use the waist swivel kind of, but then it starts to look weird and it kind of just clashes with everything else, and it's not. Yeah, basically you're just getting the head articulation out of this guy. And Dead End looks great. Oh, also Soundwave's robot mode definitely looks cool because I love that they did it's like mostly blue, but then you get the yellow in a few very specific and very iconic Soundwave places, and then also the silver and red in the face. Very nice. Dead End, the only color you're getting in Dead End is the face, but it's colored nicely. I believe this is his battle mask as well. The molding, it looks like Dead End. It looks like they really did remold Wheeljack rather than take Wheeljack and make him red, which I definitely appreciate a lot. The head looks good. The only thing that stinks is you just have the helmet and the faceplate paint in the robot mode, and that's it. It would have been nice if they did maybe a little on the chest or the waist or something, but it is what it is. But for what he is, he's not bad. And Megatron, very basic, because the only stuff that's painted, the only thing painted in vehicle mode is the fusion cannon. And then in robot mode, you get the mace and the eyes, and that's it. And I feel like that just maybe it's volume rather than number of paint apps, but I feel like maybe nothing else, if they could have done like the Decepticon logo on the chest or like maybe the red in the abs, that would have been cool. But like, this is a pretty nifty little Megatron. He looks the part. I love that he's got that evil little grin. And the mace, I initially thought was kind of awkward, but then I realized it's shaped in a way that kind of, it more looks like he's holding it rather than it being part of his arm, which I actually think is cooler. And I don't know, it's neat. His articulation, though, it's just, you can kind of rotate the arms forward, and the legs can do that if you want, but you really don't want. So yeah, you can't really do much with his posability, but still, he is fun to transform back and forth. And that is the crew. Grimlock gets a little bit taller in robot mode, but that's not really saying much. Still bigger than a Titan Master, still smaller than a Core, and he still kind of looks like he could be somebody's pet. Except now in a more twisted and disturbing way because he's more humanoid, and everyone else is of a similar size as well. They are height-wise about on par with a QT Transformer, but they are smaller than a Battle Master and by extension a Micromaster. And of course, they're still smaller than this thing. All right, let's get all of these out of here because, again, this video is about Grimlock. And it feels kind of ridiculous for me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think this might be my new favorite Grimlock toy that I own. There are no duds among the various Grimlocks that I have in my collection, except maybe Legacy Core Grimlock, but he's really not that bad, and Volcanicus more than makes up for him. Heck, as of writing, I still own 4 versions of the absolutely stellar SS86 mold. And actually, as of reading, I still have them too. Still waiting on a blue G2 version, though. Come on, just please, I need that to happen. And this is along with the Earthspark remold of the original Cyberverse Deluxe, which I've said on more than one occasion, I will defend until the heat death of the universe. That toy is great. Thing is, Tiny Turbo Changers Grimlock is like this pure distillation of all things Grimlock squished down into this silly, simple, wonderful blind bag toy. He looks great across the board, is fun and really satisfying to transform, is a joy to play with, and his small size makes him both a novelty and the ideal candidate for toting around in a pocket so as to always have something on hand to fiddle with. In all honesty, I'm not entirely sure this Grimlock will ever leave my desk, except maybe when I intentionally bring him with me when I step away from it. He might not ever go in the display because I enjoy looking at him and messing with him so much. This is the most desk toy out of any desk toy I've ever desk toyed with at my desk. And it's Grimlock. Grimlock. While I would have preferred to get him for whatever the regular blind bag MSRP plus tax is for Tiny Turbo Changers, I don't regret overpaying for him one bit. This may be the best $12 I've ever spent. Definitely the best I can recall at the moment, anyway. But that is way more talking about a Tiny Turbo Changer than I think is necessary. That is what I think of Tiny Turbo Changers, Cyberverse Grimlock, and Dead End, and Megatron, and Soundwave, and Slipstream. What do you all think of any of these tiny figures? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you in whatever the next video turns out to be. I already forgot what script is next.